Last two speakers have not completed their prescribed number of verses. And that happens because we try to prepare our regular speakers, but when we have guests or subsequent speakers, then I always put in. The idea is that we read about 20 minutes, and then we have 20 minutes to discuss. Roughly 30 minutes. So this happens to be a rather long chapter, covering actually 3 chapters from Krishna, chapter 13. But it's a beautiful, beautiful chapter. But because our last speaker didn't finish, a quick update. We found Krishna killing Kamsa in Mathura. And after that, anyone remember what did he do? He dragged his body. And after all that, then what did he do? Well, who did he go see first of all? Yeah, he went to see his parents who were in jail. And then they were overwhelmed with respect because Krishna had done all these amazing things. And everybody in Mathura was looking at him like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then he said things to make his parents feel like parents again. Then they told him to go to school. And then he went to school and he learned all these amazing things. And then to give dakshin to his teacher, he did what? Anyone remember? He rescued his son who had been killed earlier. He brought his son back from the abode of death for his teacher, whose name was Sandipani Muni. Very good. Okay, so that brings us up to speed. Now Krishna is in Mathura and he has a problem. Okay, let's stop right there. Krishna had a problem. How could Krishna have a problem? Everyone in Mathura wanted him to stay, and yet he had promised the residents of Vrindavan that what? He would be coming back. So he's going to send his cousin Uddhava in his stead. Uddhava means, refers to like festivity, a festival, like Uddhava. So Uddhava is Krishna's father's brother's son. So he's his cousin, and he looks just like Krishna, and he's a very confidential devotee of Krishna, which we'll discuss a little later. But for this purpose, he's calling on Uddhava. So I'll start, and then Krishna, please be ready here. Lord Krishna had a problem. He had promised to return to Nanda, Yashoda, and all the gopis who felt spurned, and yet he owed more time to Vasudeva and Devaki. He thus requested someone blessed with great diplomacy. His brilliant cousin Uddhava, a counselor and friend, he said, Krishna, my gentle brother, kindly go to Vraj and mend the broken hearts of Nanda and our family living there, and pacify the gopis who are drowning in despair. The gopis think of me with every moment of their lives, forsaking pious deeds and joys of ordinary wives. They love me with a fervent and unique intensity. How can I give up those who give up everything for me? Dear Uddhava, the gopis cherish me above all else. When I'm far away, how can they manage by themselves? Imagine what anxiety they feel when I'm gone, because I promised to return. They somehow carry on. Uddhava bowed and nodded in a sympathetic way. Ascending his fine chariot, at once he sped away for Nanda Maharaja's lands. When he arrived at dusk, he came unseen, for cows and streams were walking, raising dust. For miles around, he heard the sounds of bulls in playful fight, the heavy-uttered mothers chasing calves in great delight, sweet singing flutes and cowhorn toots and splashing milk in pails, and men and women singing Krishna's deeds in great detail. The people wearing ornamented silks were greatly blessed with homes equipped for worship of the cows, the gods, and guests. Surrounding this quaint village lay the forests of Gokul, with swarming bees and swans at ease in lotus-covered pools. When Uddhava arrived at Nanda's home, the king exclaimed,
"My friend, let me embrace you. I'm so very glad you came. With
first-class food, a foot massage, and all that was required, King Nanda satisfied his guest, then tactfully inquired,
King Kamsa and his brothers have been killed due to their sins. They so hated the Yadus, the most saintly, righteous men. My wonderful Uddhava Now that Vasudeva is free, is he enjoying peace with all his sons and family? And Krishna, does he think about his mother and his friends? Does he recall the cowards and the cows he used to tend? Will even once he think of us and come back for a while and let his shining face embrace us all in lovely smiles? Why Krishna staved off forest fires, floods, and angry winds, he saved us from enormous demons time and time again. When we recall his deeds and words in playful, smiling glance, we also smile and disregard our tragic circumstance. Each time we see our rivers, woods, and hills, we understand that Krishna rules our hearts and minds. His footprints grace these lands. In my view, Balaram and Krishna must be gods engaged in some great cause, as Garga Muni long ago presaged. For instance, they killed Kamsa, Chanura, and Mustika. They killed the mighty elephant, Kalakantha. For them, these fearsome enemies were merely rats or mice, disposed of by a lion who does not think of them twice. As easily as elephants can snap a twig in two, my son snapped Kamsa's bow, which was exceptionally huge. He also held a hill up for a week with just one hand and killed a slew of demons who descended on our land.
Remembering Lord Krishna, Nanda grew extremely tense as overwhelming love drew him from outer consciousness. And shedding tears to hear the themes of Krishna thus addressed, poor Yashoda said nothing, though her milk poured out her breasts. Despite the burning agony these parents seemed to show, Uddhava realized what only devotees could know. He'd just seen perfect love of God in pure parental mood. So he replied as follows in a joyful attitude. Dear Nanda and Yashoda, you should be praised. What loving devotion your hearts have displayed.
Such love is so potent, it even controls Lord Krishna, the Guru of all spirits' souls. If sinners think briefly of Krishna and die, they gain a new life in the spiritual sky. Since you're so absorbed in the thought of your son, what more pious deeds could remain to be done? Creation itself only comes to a start when Krishna and Balaram enter each heart. The killer of Kamsa, whose absence so burns, will please both of you when he shortly returns. Nobody makes Krishna feel thrilled or appalled, or greater or lesser, yet he loves us all. He craves no respect, he respects everyone. He dwells in each heart, yet you think he's your son. The Lord has no parents, no children or kin. No karma imposes a body on him. He comes to deliver his pure devotees and relish his personal activities. Narayan, the parent of all, far exceeds the three modes of nature which dictate our deeds. The good, dark, and ardent are in his employ, his tools to create and his tools to destroy. A person who's twirling around and around perceives that what's spinning is really the ground. In just the same fashion, false ego erodes our knowledge of how we're controlled by these modes. Our dance with the modes brings us joy and distress. The Lord doesn't cause them as fools may profess. Past, present, or future, no thing great or small exists without Krishna, the soul of it all. In that sense, dear Nanda, your son never leaves. He's here in his countless diverse energies. And if one loves Krishna like you and your wife, he's always with Krishna each day of his life.
As Uddhava and Nanda went on speaking through the night, the cowherd women rose from bed and set their lamps alight. When they had done their service for the household deities, they started churning yogurt into butter to make ghee. While pulling on the churning rope with golden bangled arms, their gems reflected lamplight and illumined all their charms. Their bosoms, hips, and jewels danced with every dip and peak, their golden earrings shining on their kumkum-shaded cheeks. They sang of Krishna as they churned, combined these pleasant sounds dispelled all inauspicious threats that might have lurked around. When dawn revealed the chariot in front of Nanda's home, the gopis all discussed it in discreet, sarcastic tones. Now, everybody. Sorry. Just then, Uddhava stepped outside to fill the Lord's desire. Astonished to behold this handsome stranger in their midst, the gopis gauged his face and form with this analysis. Uddhava, now encircled, prayed to Krishna deep within. The gopis duly honored him with shy and pleasant praise. Aware that he was Krishna's envoy, in a quiet place, the gopis asked him questions using sweet but urgent words. Krishna sent you here, the deepest has occurred. Now, wants his parents to be pleased. Why must they take interest in all such deeds? And wants his family as such that is saving to God, they've given us so much. Is another thing, it only lasts until the interest of the selfish friend have early to go. They need to touch and deal outside of the has put out the scoundrels of flowers of the beads. Philosophy that is money for our feet, the Lord change the world of any rules and property. As the teacher once and feels is well informed, and priests give up their sponsor once the evidence is performed. But the means of retreating when all its fruits have been devoured, and have stood up a home in its constant inner power. And the animals of the words conceived by Lord's fire, and love is spreading the wind once they satisfy desire. Since they enjoyed this special guest and much preferred to stay, the gopis all postponed their household duties for the day. Absorbed in thoughts of Krishna in his childhood and his youth, they cried, despite the presence of a man they barely knew. A certain gopi thought of Krishna so intensively, she started a discussion with a passing honeybee. Imagining the insect was a messenger instead, she thought he'd take a message back to Krishna. So she said,
"Do not touch your whiskers to my foot. They have kumkum on them. From a rival's breast, for Krishna's garland was crushed upon them. She can have him. Surely one who sends little envoys like you always will be ridiculed in Mathura by the Yadus. Krishna made us taste his nectar lips for a single hour. Then he left us like a honeybee tastes and leaves a flower. Why does goddess Lakshmi serve his feet? Does she never realize Krishna has enchanted her and stolen her mind with his lies? Why do you sing on about this Krishna to us who lost him? We have heard it all. You should perform for the girls who got him. Krishna knows their smoldering desires and he gratifies them. Do not bother us with your requests. Why not go and try them? Arching eyebrows show off the sweet smile of that charming Krishna. Women throughout heaven, earth, and hell can never resist him. Goddesses of fortune serve the dust in which he is standing. We have nothing left except his name, which we're always chanting. Keep your little head off of my feet. I know what you're doing. Krishna taught diplomacy to you, which you're clearly using. He abandoned us, although for him we gave up our families. Where is his gratitude? He shall receive no new message from me. Conquered by his Sita, he disfigured a lusty lady, then killed a monkey monarch in a way that was very shady. After taking everything from Bali, the king, he bound him. Let's give up this person, even if we must talk about him. Hearing all these things that Krishna does fills the ears with nectar. Normal people taste a single drop and become collectors. Giving up their homes and families, they arrive quite often here to live like wretched roving birds begging in Vrindavana. Like some foolish deer who trust the hunter's enchanted singing, faithfully we trusted Krishna's words like the ones you're bringing. Now we feel excruciating lust at his touch created. Kindly talk no more about your Krishna. We're saturated.
As the gopi spoke, the honey bee darted from her presence. When she couldn't see the bee, her anger grew obsolescent. Fearing that the bee told Krishna how all her words attacked him, when the bee returned, she tried to soften and then retract them.
Friend of my beloved, is it he who has sent your message? Tell me how to show you due respect. Would you like my blessings? Why would Krishna, who we can't forget, call us in this fashion? After all, dear bee, Lakshmi herself is his staunch companion. Uddhava, we can't believe that Krishna no longer lives here. All his friends, his parents, and his home. Does he still remember? Does he ever talk about his maidservants in the forest? When will his guru-scented hand once more touch our foreheads? Surely Krishna tells the city ladies they cannot please him, as much as we gopis do, and soon he'll get up and leave them. Coming back to us, he will declare, all throughout creation, no one has your qualities. I want your association.
Uddhava now was wise enough to easily discern the gopis' love for Krishna and their ache for his return. But when he heard a gopi in discussion with a bee, He made this speech to try to breach their great anxiety.
The charity they give and the austerities they've done allow great souls to serve and to remember Nanda's son. The matchless concentration on the Lord that you've acquired have made you a success and universally admired. Since famous sages fail to match it, you may rest assured that your standard of devotion is unparalleled and pure. By your great fortune, you've given up your husbands, sons, and homes to take a chance in Krishna's dance and think of him alone. You rightfully and surely claim the privilege to know unrivaled love for Krishna, and you've kindly let it show. To ease your separation, I will share your lover's views, a confidential message that his servant brings to you. Lord Krishna says,
Krishna,
How can you ever be apart from me? As water, earth, fire, I am everything you see. So I'm in the life here, all the senses and the mind. The elements themselves are also me, for they are mine. Comprised of only consciousness, the soul is quite distinct from all that's made of matter, and in time become extinct. As sleepers wake, yet dwell upon their dreams, we always find the soul hangs on the matter through the stubborn, reckless mind. As every river finds its destination in the sea, the truth, the sages say, will bring the mind tranquility. As your beloved, I've stayed away from you, you see. So you would think and dream of me so much more easily. A woman whose beloved leaves can only think of him. And since you always think of me, I'll soon be back again. Why? Some of you could not attend our moonlight autumn dance, yet thought of me intensively despite your circumstance.
the gopis were delighted at what Krishna had to say, and one by one they commented, each one in her own way. The other, please.
Since Krishna is so excellent in his conjugal affairs, how can he not be captured by the charming women there? When Krishna is sitting and freely share their minds, does he discuss the village house and the behind? Does he call those forest nights beneath the autumn moon, and those who shone brightly in the springtime jasmine bloom? Does he recall our dancing when our shining bells played music for his pastimes as we chanted them so well? As interludes of artists back to life in the journey's rain, his eyes will soon relieve our lives and separation's pain. Oh, I would Krishna, now it can't come back to us again. He is satisfied amongst us, surrounded by his friends. Why? He possesses everything. He owns the wealth. Could any dolphin please him when he's pleased with himself? The people that says joy will come when one gives up desire. Can we allow this scarlet boy from whom our hearts aspire? But a girl can give him Krishna who surpasses all the rest. Why even Shri, whom he ignores, will never leave his chest. Uddhava, when our Krishna and his brother wrote these tales, he loved the forest cows and kids he always seemed fulfilled. Although he left, we still recall him well forever since. We walk upon this land in which his lotus feet left prints. His honey words, his generous smile, his restless, darting eyes, and we forget our Krishna when our hearts are hypnotized. We gladly give up Krishna in this big and gloomy land, if only our intelligence with all our commands. Oh my, when you're not with this, then God, you're no cool for this share us.
While speaking of and to their Lord, the gopis found relief. His message and his messenger had eased their burning grief. Uddhava, who had Krishna's features, wardrobe, and physique, delighted Nanda and the rest by staying on for weeks. Discussing Krishna's pastimes and Vrindavana's atmosphere, Uddhava and the devotees felt time had disappeared. The gopis' love for Krishna, which disturbed them night and day, so greatly pleased Uddhava that he sang for them this way.
Of everyone on earth, the gopis have one perfection, adoring Krishna with such pure, unalloyed affection. The sages strive to taste that love which is so uncommon. It's never found among the gods of the high-class Brahmins. How have you simple forced women whose reputations are sullied by a paramour reach such exaltation, as patients get relief without knowledge of their potions? The simple gain the grace of God if they have devotion. You gopis gain the Lord's embrace, which is so exclusive that Lakshmi and his other wives find it still elusive. Those loving arms elude the queens of the gods' dominions, and to the wishes of this world's most enchanting women. These husbands, sons, and peace of mind that you all have traded for Krishna, goal of every verse that adorns the Vedas, are hard to leave. Would you great souls come and bless me often, were I a creeper or a bush growing in Vrindavan? Brahma and Lakshmi and the gods touch in meditation. Lord Krishna's lotus feet, and yet in infatuation, you gopis get to touch his feet and embrace them freely. I bow before you, all who praise Krishna's feet so sweetly.
When months had passed, Uddhava asked King Nanda for consent to leave. He asked the gopis too, who added their assent. As he climbed on his chariot, King Nanda and the rest approached him bearing presents and this tearful last request.
May all of our thoughts be thoughts about Lord Krishna's lotus, descriptions of his deeds, the only words that we repeat, obeisances to him, the only posture that we form, and anything he wants, the only service we perform. Wherever we may wander in this world by Krishna's will, directed by reactions to our work we must fulfill. May every deed of piety and charity we do bestow pure love of Krishna till our mortal lives are through.
To hear these loving statements left Uddhava so impressed, he raced to Mathura, entered the palace, and expressed to Balaram and Krishna and to Krishna's entourage,
Ecstatic love for you, my Lord, consumes the land of Raj.
dramatic. Thank you very much. All right, so Krishna's problem, ostensibly, was that the residents of Vrindavan were missing him, and that he'd been away from his parents and had obligations in Mathura, so he couldn't go back. So he sent Uddhava instead. This was the superficial activity of this pastime. But in reality, and beyond that even, Krishna wanted Uddhava to understand the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So as a resident of Mathura, he could not enter into that same intense devotion. So this was his, you'd say, primary purpose really in sending Uddhava there, at least a secondary purpose. So that's exactly what happened, right? Uddhava was a devotee of Krishna. Uddhava received so much mercy from Krishna. He was the recipient of Krishna's final instructions before he left this planet, right? In the 11th canto, the Uddhava Gita. Yeah, Krishna told him all of the important things people would need to know to continue in this world without Krishna's personal presence. And Uddhava was so dear to Krishna that he took this instruction and stayed, although he first begged Krishna, please let me go back with you to the spiritual world. I don't want to stay in this world without you. But no, Krishna said, Uddhava, you stay and you present these instructions just as I'm giving you. So this was how intimate their relationship was. We could say Arjuna was similarly intimate because he also received these instructions from Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. But actually Uddhava's relationship was more intimate because Arjuna would sometimes surrender to social custom and pressure and worship the demigods. Uddhava never worshipped the demigods. He only worshipped Krishna. Even from his very childhood, he was always just absorbed in Krishna. So for this reason, Krishna wanted him to understand this mood of unconditional love that could only be found in Vrindavan. You see, when Krishna came to Mathura, what did he do? What was the first thing he did? Before that, let's review that fast. When he first came in with the boys, who did they meet? The washerman. Say, hey, give us some nice clothes. Kamsa does not like beggars. So then they dressed up in all the fancy clothes and they got them custom tailored. Then he went, and what was the next amazing thing that he did? Yes, he straightened Kubja, the hunchback, and then what was the big thing he did that got everyone's attention? He went to the sacrificial arena, right, and broke this bow, which no one else could even lift. He picked it up. So when that bow broke, the sound of it breaking, that crack resonated in Kamsa's palace and rattled his brain. He had invited, remember, he invited Krishna for what reason? Yeah, he had all kinds of ways set up for Krishna to be killed. So it was a big trick he was going to play with Akrura's help. Akrura, the respected Brahmin, go and, little favor to ask, just go and bring Krishna and Balaram here and we'll have a little entertainment. So you remember when Akrura went to Nanda's house and told him, I mean, he was just very guileless. He was not confidential about the plot. He said, Kamsa wants you to come and so he can kill you. And what did Nanda and everyone do? They started laughing. And then Nanda said, come on, everyone, we're going to have some entertainment and much. So, so then Krishna killed Kamsa. First he killed, the elephant, Kubala Yapida, who was arranged by Kamsa to kill him. And then he killed the wrestlers, Chanura and Mushtika, who also had been sent to kill him. So then he killed Kamsa himself and dragged the body around the arena just so everybody was well aware that he was not merely unconscious. And so in the jail, meanwhile, Vasudeva and Devaki were hearing all these amazing things. Krishna has done this, and now Krishna's done that, and now Krishna's killed Kamsa. And they're just stunned because, of course, this is their child, their baby boy. So when he came to the cell, Vasudeva and Devaki, they could only pay their obeisances. And just imagine if you went to see your parents and they were so awestruck by you becoming a Hare Krishna. They could only pay their obeisance. Now you are a sadhu. So, Krishna did not like that mood because he wants parents. He doesn't like being an orphan. He wants his parents to treat him as their child. And so then he began saying things to invoke their parental feelings. He said, oh, how much affection you would have given us if we could have only stayed here with you. If we could have only stayed. You know, our foster parents are very nice, but no one can give affection like the real parents. And in this way, he invoked their parental feelings so they could embrace him and not think of him as this all-powerful personality who had come and done so many amazing things. So this was the problem with Mathura, that they all met Krishna in this mood of reverence. So Krishna's pastimes are described as, amazing in Dwarka and more amazing in Mathura, but most amazing in Vrindavana. Right? Is that the word, Prabhupada? What was the word? Perfect. They were perfect in Dwarka, more perfect in Mathura, but most perfect in Vrindavana. So Uddhava was a resident of Mathura, and Krishna loved him so much. He was so very intimate with him. He wanted him to understand this place where everybody was constantly in this yoga maya, this mood of thinking of Krishna as a friend, a son, or a beloved. And so Uddhava had never experienced this. So ostensibly he went to tell them this message from Krishna. And what was that message? It's kind of a philosophical message. He says, you know, my dear gopis, everything comes from me. So in that respect, how can you ever be separated from me? Everything you see around me is only me. Around you is only me. So you're really not separated. So the gopis, being very simple, they all said, yeah, that sounds really good. And they bought it. But then later, the next time, when Krishna actually met them at the convention, the family gathering at Kurukshetra, this was many years later. The gopis came from Vrindavan and Krishna came from Dwarka. And the gopis saw him. And Krishna said, "Oh, how nice to see you. You know, everything is my energy. And so you've really never been separated from me." This time they weren't buying. This time they said, "No, we do not accept that. You gave us this line one time, but we're not taking it again. So you're coming with us to Vrindavan." And they grabbed the ropes of Krishna's chariot and started pulling him to Vrindavan. So this is the Rath Yatra. And the gopis are pulling Krishna back to Vrindavan. They said this beautiful sloka, which was quoted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that it's the same time of year, the same moonlit nights, and you're the same Krishna and we're the same gopis, but we want to see you in Vrindavan. So this was the mood of the gopis. So Krishna gave the Uddhava this experience. He was so ecstatic that he came rushing back to Vrindavan, to Mathura, and burst in the palace and said, "You should see all those devotees in Vrindavan." So Uddhava then after that was constantly wrapped in Krishna in the same mood of the Vrajavasis. And he was kind of out of place in Mathura and Dwarka. So everyone in Mathura and Dwarka considered Uddhava kind of crazy. He just thought, okay, he's this eccentric uncle, this strange relative who has all these emotional eruptions. And he didn't exactly fit in anymore after this experience. So any other reflections, thoughts about this pastime?
You heard how the gopis responded to Uddhava's message. But I'm thinking, Nanda and Yashoda, they were so emotional, and Uddhava told them the same thing. Like, how must they have reacted? They're feeling so much separation, and someone just tries to give them philosophy. No, it works, seems to work.
No, it didn't work. Nanda was such a simple person. And they just thought of Krishna as their son. It's like sometimes when tragic things happen, and they happen amongst devotees also. Sometimes well-meaning, but inexperienced devotees will try to address it philosophically, address the hard feelings, the sadness, the sorrow. Say, well, it's just karma. And when that happens, the devotee who's suffering feels like punching him in the nose. I don't want to hear about karma. Krishna has done this for some reason. Why would Krishna do this? This is how we need to address this. So Nanda and Yashoda could not relate to Uddhava's speech at all. It did not bring them a moment's relief. Rather, Uddhava was taken by their mood. And see, Uddhava was he's actually Krishna's disciple, but he's also known as the disciple of Brihaspati. He's a very, very educated, philosophical person. So for him, this was a perfectly reasonable approach. His message to Nanda and Yashoda, his message to the goat, very rational. But they weren't, he could see that it wasn't impacting him. So the lesson is that loving Krishna is not just something on the mental platform.
Thank you for a wonderful class, Prabhu. I was just wondering, on page number 235, paragraph number 2, first line, it says, conquered by his Sita, he disfigured a lusty lady. So I was just wondering, what is that referring to?
Yeah.
Lusty lady, disfigured.
That was, what was his name? Suparna.
So, okay.
Suparna.
Wasn't it by Lakshmana though? Surmanka.
Under the auspices of Ram.
Okay.
You only got so many syllables to work with.
Okay. All right, thank you. That was it.
She was after Ram. She was after Ram, yes.
But Lakshmana cut her nose, so that was under.
Ram referred her to Lakshmana.
Ram made a joke and just.
Sorry, I'm already married. But
Okay, thank you very much.
okay. That's Patrick.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I was just wondering, because you mentioned that Uddhava said that he wants to go back with Krishna. He doesn't want to stay when he's leaving. But is it not that none of them actually ever left, like Gokul, like Golok Vrindavan, that they're in both places at the same time? Kind of like, I mean, Krishna never leaves Golok Vrindavan, right? Even if he comes.
And so remember when Krishna came to relieve the burden of the earth, he instructed all the demigods to come and take birth on earth as well, so they could be part of his past. So it's not that they are just like this traveling troupe. They never change their bodies, but they go through all these transformations in association with Krishna. So for Uddhava, that was his particular service. And you remember Uddhava stayed and was a wise, respected teacher, so much so that Vidura, who was his contemporary, still approached him for instruction in the third canto. And Uddhava said, well, you should actually go to the elder who is Maitreya. So Uddhava stayed as a wise teacher to help diminish the separation in the hearts of Krishna's devotees. They are eternal associates, but sometimes they're engaged in different ways.
But are they actually gone from Golok Vrindavan? They're never gone. They are. Krishna is Krishna ever gone from there?
Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, right? And it's the Vasudev who leaves Vrindavan, right, to perform all these pastimes. Vasudev Krishna who performs all these pastimes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the spiritual world.
Now they're always in the spiritual world is not a physical, one-dimensional location. It depends all upon the consciousness of the devotees. So they're always in the spiritual world because of their attachment to Krishna. And that Krishna may engage them in different ways, even in the material world. That's what eternal associate means, always with Krishna in a variety of places.
Thank you. It's hard to understand, but thank you.
The point is that our consciousness can become attached to Krishna even in this material world. Okay, other thoughts and reflections?
One reflection and one question. I guess my reflection kind of goes off your point. It's just, it feels so sad though, just to see the gopis and so much. They're describing how they were so close to Krishna and their union with him and that loving reciprocation. I mean, he's gone for a long, long time. It hurts to see that. And for the rest of the book, just still there, he's just gone. And so it was quite like heart-churning to read that. But there's one line at the end of page 234. It says, we have nothing left except his name, which we're always chanting. I wondered if you can, it kind of seems like sort of our disposition also. If we don't have anything besides Krishna's name, we should always be chanting. Is there some lesson you can draw from this line?
Well, the fact that you feel it so strongly means you are entering the mood of the gopis.
because of your writing.
As Krishna is saying to the gopis, one of his excuses for leaving is to say, well, I'm leaving just to draw out your love, because this feeling of separation allows you to think of me more easily, you see. So in a material dramatic way, separation of the lover and beloved is excruciating. But in the spiritual sense, it enables us, the painful emotions are an incentive for remembering Krishna. And there's all kinds of incentives for remembering Krishna in the nectar of devotion, all sorts of different moods can be translated if that is our purpose. So a toothache can be an incentive to remember Krishna. Oh, Krishna. If we are intent on remembering him, all of these negative things or unfortunate things can be used in that way. And this is why a devotee this is how a devotee understands suffering in this world. There's a nice example of the dentist. The dentist inflicts a deliberate amount of pain on a patient in order to spare them from much greater pain were it to be untreated. So the pain of staying in the material world and birth and death is Mahato Bhayat, the greatest fear. And the suffering that we undergo in this world is just a little token to help cure us of any notions of enjoying this place. Prabhupada Priya, please.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I used to get really upset about that. About Krishna leaving Vrindavan, like really upset about. But then, yeah, especially because I lived in Vrindavan and Mathura is so close. Like we used to ride bicycles, and like in Parikram, they walk to Mathura, like just in, some hours. It's just like, it's so close. Why doesn't Krishna just go? Like just a little day trip, But yeah, I mean, Krishna's thing was that his love for the gopis was so intense that if he would go back, he wouldn't be able to leave again. Like he would have to go back to stay. And he had his mission to kill the demons and, reestablish religious principles. So he was really duty bound. But then one thing that also made me feel a little better was that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that, well, there's this pastime where Balaram also, Uddhava visits Vrindavan as a messenger, and Krishna also sends Balaram. I think it's later, right? Sends Balaram later. And so Balaram, when he goes, because he's also Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he also goes with a message. So he tells Krishna, Balaram tells the gopis that Krishna's message, and Krishna says that actually I'm here. Like I'm actually here with you. All you need to do is close your eyes. And then they close their eyes, and by the empowerment of, by Krishna's desire coming through the empowerment of Lord Balaram, they're able to see like all the pastimes of Krishna going on. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And so even when he goes to Mathura, he stays in Vrindavan, but he stays in an unmanifested form, and that all those pastimes of Krishna and the gopis and cowherd boys and Nanda, they're all going on, but it's unmanifest. So it's like they're not aware that it's going on in one sense, but if they go into this like meditation mode with the empowerment of the Lord, then they can actually access those pastimes. So yeah, the Krishna is there, but he's just kind of like hidden, and the devotees can go very deep in they can, so he is there.
He is there. Okay, and with that, we will. Breakfast is ready. Okay, so let's start. One more. Nisagaraga had a realization, sure.
Just referring to the point that Ramgunda made of the Gopi said, all we have is your names. So I was thinking on that, even the gopis are chanting like Krishna's names. And then we have this line that Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. Like one day just struck me that this is indeed the name that the gopis are chanting. Like this is like so valuable. Otherwise, I just think that, well, the gopis maybe have different mantras, different names, and this is just prescribed to us. But it's actually the same mantra, and then it just became so much more appreciable, like so much. This is so valuable. The gopis were chanting these names of Krishna, and that's what we are so fortunate to chant.
That's at the end of the Shikshasakam, isn't it? Ram Govinda, people write this. It's an expression of separation. And so the holy name leads us to that expression, to that stage. The same in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings. That he begins with such humble expressions, but he ends up in the spiritual world making garlands for Krishna. So the holy name is the vehicle for sure. And even Radharani is saying it. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Namo Brahmane